Let's talk about our main topic, please.
Let's fucking do this.
Stop it. Stop being so angry.
Damn it! I want to get this done.
Wow. And you got older.
That was a terrible.
This show's aging me.
Listen, I'm aged.
I want you to sit back and pretend you're in the year
I want you to pretend to sit back.
29 years ago, 2014.
I'm there. Okay.
Yeah.
Wait.
The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is about to hit theaters. And little did you know that Sony secretly banked on the success of The Amazing Spider-Man 2, so much so they had 4 movies planned after this.
After?
Yes.
Wow. I do remember that it was very clear that there was supposed to be a third.
Yes. Well, this whole thing is interesting because
I actually
there are whole sections of that second movie that are completely cut out. Like Mary Jane was in it.
Oh.
There was a whole there was more to do. There was more setup of the Sinister Six.
Was
I think.
it Emma Stone?
No, it was the actress that was with Aaron Rodgers, Shailene Woodley.
Oh,
Shailene
no.
Woodley. She's also in Westworld.
No.
I think. No, that's Evan Rachel Wood. I'm getting my actresses mixed up. My point. She was Divergent. That's what she was in.
Anyway,
Damn, that was a long time ago.
I really liked. Before you move on, I really did always like their take on the Rhino.
I want him in that silly suit. Damn it.
Fair.
But the mech suit is...
The Rhino is
the
way...
mech suit is more believable.
Well, the Rhino is way... Listen, you basically had Paul Giamatti going, I got this. And you're like, okay. You don't go, no, Paul, follow the script. You go, Paul's going to get the makeup team to put a barbed wire tattoo around his head and shave his head and learn a ridiculous Russian... Okay, you just kind of go with that. But yeah, honestly, though... The Rhino is best as the big dumb idiot in the suit that won't come off.
And almost falsely advertised. Because he's like barely in it at the beginning, and then the scene at the end, they just cut to black when he's about to hit him. And it's like...
Yeah, he's barely in the movie.
Yeah, I'm like... Oh,
like
but he's on the posters. And it's just funny to me. And there's so many things, like... I remember enjoying that movie coming out of the theater, but then upon watching it again, I'm like,
okay.
Because you know what? I was just so excited to see a Spider-Man movie again. I was just trying to think that... Because I didn't really vibe with the first movie as much. Like,
can I just... I'm sorry. I completely forgot. I got my Gwen Stacy's completely switched. Bryce Dallas Howard was Gwen Stacy in Spider-Man 3. Yes. Emma Stone was Gwen Stacy in all the Amazing Spider-Man. I know that now. So me asking if MJ was Emma Stone was a really stupid question. Why didn't you call me on that? Why didn't you go, why?
I was just trying to get to my point.
You fuck.
So anyway.
Continue.
So Amazing Spider-Man 2 is coming out. They have a plan. So
to fuck shit up beyond belief.
Almost a year before it came out, in June 2013, the Amazing Spider-Man 3 and the Amazing Spider-Man 4 were announced with release dates for June 2016 and May 2018. So they were really banking on this Andrew Garfield, Mark Webb, Amazing Spider-Man universe, because Webb was going to come back for 3. Garfield was only under contract for 3, and I think he was going to... We'll get into it when we dive more.
Why don't you stop getting ahead of yourself?
Yeah, let's stick to 3, I guess. Amazing. Because we have 4 movies, right? So it's The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Sinister Six Part 1, Sinister Six Part 2, The Amazing Spider-Man 3, Venom Carnage, I think, and then The Amazing Spider-Man 4, which was potentially going to be a handoff to Miles and then set up a new Spider-Man thing. It gets weird. And honestly, when you say it out loud and you map it out,
can Sony hire some fucking comic book people for their department? They literally don't know how to fucking make comic book movies.
It reeks of Avi Arad, who
is a shit.
Who produced the other ones. But it reeks of his decisions. But when you say it out loud, it does sound like too many movies. But as a narrative thing, yeah, you can make that work.
I'd fucking
But you
eat all
don't
that shit
need
up.
2 movies of the Sinister Six, especially since you have to tell a story that makes these characters worth rooting for, because why are you making a movie about a villain? It's what we've been talking about with the fucking Craven movie and the Morbius movie, and Venom, again, works a little bit...
Morbin time.
Like, why do they feel the need? Because they're so desperate to use these Spider-Man properties, and it's like, it's just so, it's frustrating.
Yeah, I don't want to root for Tom Hardy and Venom. I really don't. Like, I don't really root for him. That's not why I like that movie. I like it because...
It's ridiculous.
Right. They were like, believability, we don't have to worry about that too
It's
much?
a throwback to, like, his roots. It's a I always look at it as like a throwback to the 90s Venom. And people don't like it, I get it. But
Whatever, fuck you.
that does play a role in this, and especially how they wanted to do all of it is kind of wild. So, originally Sony had big plans with this. So, the Sinister Six one was going to be directed by Drew Goddard. Of course, it was canceled after the failure of Amazing Spider-Man 2. They also had plans for a Venom movie directed by Alex Kurtzman, and that would be eventually turn into Tom Hardy's Venom. And then they also had a female-led spinoff. There was also, I remember, plans for a Silver Sable Black Cat team-up movie
I
called
remember that.
Silver and Black. And I was like, it's kind of
Nobody
weird.
knows who these characters are.
But this is the thing.
We do, but
It's weird because it really does feel like it's mirroring the 90s explosion of the Spider-Man comics, where you had Spider-Man, Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, you had Web of Spider-Man, you had like so many Spider-Man titles. Because he's so popular, they keep wanting more and more books. And now you're seeing it, and you would get like Venom miniseries, and Silver and Black sounds like it would be a miniseries. You know what that'd be great for? Like Disney Plus, or
Yes.
like a streaming service. That would be. Do not make that a movie. Like
So-
that's not. You know what I mean? Like there's still like Hawkeye is a great example. Hawkeye I think works as a show. I don't think it could work as a movie,
No.
but I think it works better as a show.
Right.
So I think some comic book miniseries could work as, and we've talked about.
So
this
when I was
as
growing up,
miniseries.
it was The Amazing Spider-Man, and in the 80s they added eventually 2 different Spider-Man books, and one was Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, often referred to as the Spectacular Spider-Man, and then Web of Spider-Man was introduced much later in the 80s. Literally just like, we just need to have a 3rd Spider-Man book. And throughout that time, they had a reprint, Marvel Tales featuring Spider-Man, which reprinted like books from like the 60s and 70s. And those sold like hotcakes, even though they were fucking reprints of stories, 20 years old. And then Todd McFarlane's Spider-Man came out. And I remember there was this whole thing where like, I can't remember what it was for. I want to say the 50th anniversary of Spider-Man, or what was it? 25th?
Well, I know like
30th maybe, but they had like all 4 of the books had like these gatefold fucking holograph fucking covers, and it was the beginning of like the Clone Saga and shit.
Dude, we could do, you know what, with all this, again, with these strikes,
Yeah.
I would love to do deep dives on like the Clone Saga and shit.
See, I
because-
stopped reading around that time.
Well, because, but that's my
a
point.
little before that, but yeah.
That's my point with Sony. Like, I know I said when we talked about the Spider-Verse movie, Across the Spider-Verse, I had said that, I think Sony should use the fact that they have all these Spider characters. On the same, I have 2 feelings about it, because on one hand, I'm like, it's cool that they're like, okay, we've only had this many Spider-Man things. Like they're like, okay, we're committed to doing this. This is what Miles Spider-Man is. This is the MCU,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
And it's amazing restraint, because I am shocked at this point we don't have all these different Spider-Man movies. And then they announce things like Kraven the Hunter, and I'm like, what are we doing? Why not do, and I said this before, why not do a fucking, if you're going to do it, do it. If you're going to mimic the comics, make a fucking Web of Spider-Man show for fucking Netflix or Disney Plus or whatever. Like, what? Like, why make movies about fucking Kraven the Hunter and Morbius? And then again, I feel like they just did weird shit in this Amazing Spider-Man universe to just do weird things and not be like Raimi, because Raimi was Stan Lee Ditko, John Romita Jr., Spider-Man. This is more of like we're doing more of like an ultimate Spider-Man, edgy Spider-Man.
Yeah.
For the Amazing Spider-Man 3, Mark Webb was set to return as director, but his plans included using the Sinister Six. The main villain would be a resurrected Norman Osborn, which, if you remember, the Amazing Spider-Man 2, he died of a disease, with Chris Cooper reprising the role. There was a deleted scene, it was post-credits for Amazing Spider-Man 2, that revealed Osborn was kept alive with his head being on ice.
Okay.
Because they know they could not top Willem Dafoe. So they had to do something completely different and make Harry this weird, like, again, doing stuff like the Ultimate Universe and making him look a little bit more like a goblin. And, like, they just want to do weird shit to do weird shit.
It's fine. You can tell a lot of different stories with these characters.
You can, and I'm not...
But they're not all great.
It's just confusing why you would do certain things. Like, you don't need to have this weird story of Norman if you're not going to do Green Goblin because, of what Raimi and Defoe did, then do a different fucking
Make
villain.
him fucking Hobgoblin.
Do what
or Jack-o'-lantern.
Do what Spider-Verse did and take the Spot, a nothing character, and make them important.
Yes.
It just takes one good arc.
Mm-hmm.
Kraven the Hunter, Kraven's Last Hunt.
Great.
Like,
before that, dude, Kraven was
whole
boring.
Character is built on that story. Like, that is the definitive... And you can have that with these characters. That's what's so frustrating. Why do we need to put fucking Norman Osborn's head on ice? Like, you have 70-plus years of lore to pull out of. Like, what are you doing? You don't need... it's just... And, look, it happens all the time.
Why don't you have the whole story of fucking... Why? Listen, Gwen Stacy dies, right? Or no, she does.
Yeah, she dies in the Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Okay, right. Okay, so she dies.
They do the neck thap.
Yeah. Okay, so she dies. Okay, in the comics, that was around the same time. Interestingly enough,
I know that whole story. It's nuts.
That the drug story was going on with Harry Osborn.
Yes.
So that's the same issue. Okay, so Spider-Man, Peter Parker finds Harry Osborn like dead almost of an overdose of pills.
Because Stan wanted to write about it.
So he calls the police and everything and has people come over, and then he has to go save Gwen, and she dies, and then he kills Norman.
That happened
in the same issue or two.
That happened because Stan Lee was on vacation with his wife in Europe, and they killed Gwen Stacy when he was in Europe, and he was upset about it because he never wanted Gwen Stacy to die because she was modeled after his wife. And like Gwen Stacy Mary Jane wasn't supposed to be the love of his life. It was supposed to be Gwen.
So,
do you know that story?
Yeah. So, Mary Jane's way better. Sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
No,
Mary Jane is
a
fictional character,
I'm pretty sure,
but a smoke show.
Tyler, I'm pretty sure since then Stan Lee has been warmed up to the idea of Mary Jane.
Oh, well, he loves the whole face of Tiger. You just hit the jackpot. That's one of his favorite panels ever.
He signed off on her being the love interest in Raimi's Spider-Man.
Well, here's the very last page of that arc, okay, of that two-issue story, whatever, where Gwen dies and Green Goblin dies.
Yeah, but then
Spider-Man
never kills.
Very last page. Mary Jane is over at Peter and Harry's apartment, and she's trying to talk to Peter because she knows he's upset about his friend Harry, and she's upset about her friend Harry. And up till then, Mary Jane to Peter, in Peter's eyes, Mary Jane is the good time girl who never worries about anything, and she just doesn't care. She just goes through life, just party to party to party and whatever.
Actress.
Well, she's just a model at the time, or
Model,
wannabe model, whatever. But that's the way he looked at her.
Yeah. And
she was like, "Why? I can't believe you think that I'm like not a person with feelings and compassion and everything."
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, "Well, I've never seen that before." And he makes her cry. And the very last page, he's literally like, "You know what? Just go to just go to another party." Like he's driving her, he's pushing her away. And she opens the door and she's got tears in her eyes. And she's like, "Fuck you."
Yeah. And
she looks back at him. And I think for the first time in the comics, she realizes how much she cares about him, and knows that, he's just angry about his friend and everything.
Yeah.
So she turns back and she shuts the door and stays. And that's the very last page because and it's implied she stays and talks to him. Like they talk and they get to know each other. And she basically like helps him through, and that's like the really bonding moment of MJ and Peter's relationship in the comics, is that they probably just talked through the night about their friend Harry and how worried they were about him.
Yeah.
Nothing sexual, nothing romantic, just.
I think I kind of prefer this approach,
but I just really I loved that page because I had the issue of the Marvel Tales, interestingly enough. And I remember very distinctly, I can see it very distinctly in my head, of Mary Jane. It's John Romita's drawing, and she's standing there, and then she's got tears in her eyes, and then slam, or close or whatever.
Again, why Raimi's Spider-Man was great. That's what I loved about the end of that second movie, Spider-Man 2. She's smiling because she chose Peter, but then there's also that kind of look of like, oh, he's because he left, he took off to go fight crime, and she's like, this is my life. He's going to be, I love him, but he's going to keep leaving me to go do this. And it's like, those movies are great. Don't have that with these Spider-Man. No, I'm kidding.
These wacky
and
fucking.
That's one thing I will give props to Amazing Spider-Man 2. I think Emma Stone and Andrew Garfield have great chemistry in those movies.
Emma Stone was
so when she
is
her
fantastic.
Her death is handled really well in that movie. I feel, and it's very sad. And
what a redemption
but I kind of like this
in No Way Home, right?
Yeah.
Like, way to go.
I wanted to say though, I thought that would have been an interesting development in this Amazing Spider-Man verse where Peter meets Mary Jane later, and not have that love triangle or anything with that. And I kind of like that approach, but then things get really weird with this. So, The Amazing Spider-Man 3 was confirmed to include the Venom symbiote, which is hilarious because it's almost like Sony not learning anything from the last trilogy they made. But Mark Webb was like really into this idea, and he was trying to really convince people it was going to be different. And I think it would have been. So he says, quote, with all due respect to Sam, I adore Venom and immediately had my hand up in a heartbeat when talk of including him popped up in meetings, which is true. Raimi said he never liked Venom. Like he didn't understand the character. And like a good filmmaker, he said, I don't want to put this character in this movie because I don't understand the character. Which is commendable, but, studios are the ones paying the bills.
Listen, Sam, what's so hard to understand?
Yeah.
I mean, did you read Secret Wars? Did you read any of the books leading up to the moment? I know you were reading comic books then. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I know you read when he went into the bell tower and almost killed himself. Yeah. Trying to get rid of the damn thing.
You know what I'm actually...
How do you not understand the character? What the fuck is wrong with you?
I don't know why you're going so hard on him on that.
You know what, Sam?
No, I think his approach was doing...
No, it's fine. No, but...
I know you're just...
I'm kind of joking, but it's like, dude, whatever. I mean...
Well, no, Raimi's movie originally didn't have the symbiote.
Here,
I'm
absolutely
almost positive it didn't have it.
Right, it was just Sandman, and that's totally cool. And
it was
that
Sandman
movie
and Vulture, I think.
That movie would have been way, way better. Absolutely.
So.
And no,
too many villains.
Well, the other thing too is, he's right. He's right to say like, hey, I don't get the character, so I don't want to make the movie with him in it because I won't do him justice.
Sorry, there might have been Vulture. John Malkovich was talked to be maybe have been the Vulture.
So cool.
But
Adrian Toomes.
I think that's actually Spider-Man 4. So Spider-Man 3 was supposed to be Sandman and Harry coming back as the new Goblin, or Harry being the new Goblin.
With a fucking snowboard.
That's why Venom's black suit stuff is added on, feels added on later because Venom wasn't even supposed to be in that movie.
No, and it's not even really the black costume because it's.
That's why I thought, okay, I do appreciate this approach, which is like what Mark Webb is saying. He's like, no, I really want to tell that Venom story, or at least a version of it, because we're not gonna do the fucking Battle World. Which reminds me, real quick, I know you've had them before, like those Marvel Epic collections. They have one up on Comixology Unlimited, and I was like, you know what? I've never actually read this arc. I love that character, but I remember Eddie Brock and Venom from the cartoon more than anything else, in video games and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Excuse me. So I'm like, oh, the birth of Venom, and it's like almost 400 pages, and it's got and it does what it did when you gave me that copy of Secret Wars, where it has doesn't have the full issue, but the context of each issue that you would need in these crossovers. Yeah. So it literally just has a really one page being like, oh, I'm in the new suit. But it's fun because you like get to see Stan Lee's writing, and it's like, man, this is such a different time. But no,
he was a great writer for his time. He wrote stuff like when he was around my time, and a lot of it was like spin-off material and stuff. Like he didn't really write books anymore.
So yeah, Venom is definitely the main focus of this version. Well, most of it. We got some other plot details we're gonna get into that make me laugh. So, continuing on about what he said. While I wasn't all in on Gwen's death in the second one, I at the same time realized it was an ideal circumstance to introduce the symbiote to our version of Spidey, which again I like. This is good. This is like the way that Mark Webb describes what he wanted to do with the symbiote and the Venom and stuff like that for Amazing Spider-Man 3. I'm like, I would like this. This is because it makes total sense that he would go to the dark side and embrace that Venom, and like, damn it, it's so frustrating when you read about it. But then there's other elements where I'm like, son of a bitch, Sony, come on. Right. Peter's obviously in a dark place in his life following Gwen's death, and we had to gloss over that against my own wishes, I might add, at the end of Amazing 2, because Avi had all his hopes hinging on the Sinister Six movie that they've been hell-bent on getting on the conveyor belt and wanted to set that up on the double. The black suit, as well as we all know, makes him stronger, and preying on that, he's got some serious shit on his plate he needs off. And this new suit, no, maybe I skipped a line. Yeah, and this new suit does exactly that and appreciates the living thing that it is. So, like, yeah, we're going to play up him, and then he also made a point that he wanted this approach to be a little bit more serious in tone, a little bit darker, because, there's the memes about Raimi's take on it. And, again, I appreciate, because I appreciate a little bit more of an intimidating Venom. But I also love Tom Hardy's goofiness of Venom, because Venom is a goofy character in the comics. But he's gotten serious over time. But he's a very '90s character sometimes.
He's the true Venom to me is the guy from the cartoon. Just like really violent and really like over the top. Like, ooh, look at the big brain. Like, I think that's Venom to me.
And I think
that was the best comic books. Yeah. When he first came back, he was really just violent. But as he kept appearing in the comic books and kept coming back, because for the first like 4 times he shows up, Spider-Man has to convince Venom that he's dead, that Spider-Man's dead, so that Venom will leave, because he can't beat Venom.
His spider sense doesn't work on Venom.
Right, he can't beat Venom, so he has to somehow convince Venom that Spider-Man died. So he does that the first 2 times. Then the third time,
isn't it around like the Clone Saga and he has Ben Reilly fight him or something?
No, that's I stopped reading Spider-Man like a year or 2 before that. I knew of it because my brother still collected comic books, so I read like a couple issues. But yeah, so he keeps coming back and whatever. And as he keeps coming back, he kept developing more of a personality. And then like by the 4th time he comes back,
he got so popular they had to make him.
Well, yeah, obviously, but he has to team up. Spider-Man has to team up with Venom.
Yeah, to fight
like
Carnage.
The 4th time. Yeah, the 4th time, which is funny as hell because it's such a weird dynamic. Yeah, it's absolute carnage. That first arc,
90s
Mark Bagley.
Arc,
yeah. But it's such a weird dynamic because like Venom hates Spider-Man, but he's honorable. Like Venom is honorable,
and that was because they had to segue him into being an anti-hero so they could do Lethal Protector.
Right. So Venom is like, he's like, I will do this to stop Carnage. So I will work with you. I won't kill you until we've taken care of Carnage.
Yeah.
Basically, and then he double crosses him. Reed Richards shows up with the sonic gun, and they take care of Venom and whatever. But again, like that was when he was really starting to be the character that I think of as Venom. Is he's violent as fuck, but he's also goofy as fuck. Like he's clearly unbalanced.
Well, what I think is so interesting, and I think it's I think Avi Arad,
but he's also very honorable.
I think Avi Arad was right on one sense.
Yeah.
Where like Venom is a very popular character, but we're because he came around in the 90s, right? And I think it's funny because Venom is so synonymous, and you can make arguments. And I'm not here to say...
I want to say his first appearance was 1989. His first full appearance is Amazing Spider-Man 300, but his first appearance is technically 299.
Maybe I'll do an essay on this, but I feel like
Because I had both issues.
I feel like there could be an argument made that Venom is Spider-Man's best villain. Because
I absolutely. You know what?
because he is involved with some of the major story arcs, right? But you don't see a lot of people talking about like Green Goblin books, but there's a lot of there was like Gold Goblin.
He did
My
beat
point
the shit out
is-
of Mary Jane, dude. The first time he shows up, he beats the shit out of Mary
Yeah,
Jane.
she's terrified of the black suit
Right.
because Venom.
So
did.
just
No, but what I'm saying is like, my point is he's so popular that
he's a great.
there's so many versions of the character.
Yeah.
In another example, I was on Comixology Unlimited, and yeah, I'm a sucker for like current events, and that new Spider-Man game's coming out, and it's gonna do the Venom storyline in it.
Oh right.
Their version of it, and I'm excited for that because I've always had an attachment to that character, and I think it's because I watched the cartoon as a kid, and he was just really popular at that time when I was young.
I was right.
And I see and I'm noticing like a lot of writers around my age, or a little bit older, are guys that write these comics like Donny Cates and Al Ewing, and like the more mythology that's been added onto this character later.
Oh, yeah,
shows
yeah.
that,
Like
this
the-
character has been, and Marvel has done a lot of like pushing that character. They
Yeah.
know it's popular.
So, as I stated, the alien costume was first appearance.
Secret Wars.
It says the Amazing Spider-Man 252, but we know that it first appears in Secret Wars. It does.
Because it's on Battle World, where he thought
Yes.
he was using the thing to fix his
Um,
costume.
As Venom, the cameo appearance, Spider-Man 299 in April 98 or April 88, and then full appearance, the Amazing Spider-Man 300, May of 88. And I stopped reading somewhere between 90 and 91, I think. But that was a lot of fucking issues to read. But yeah, I mean, you could easily make. I think you say maybe 3.
Yeah.
There's 3 in his pantheon of really solid villains that kind of make Spider-Man as awesome a character as he is.
Yeah.
And it's Dr. Octopus, Green Goblin, and Venom.
Yeah.
I think you
Could also say Carnage, but I feel like Carnage is
Carnage
more of a
is a
Venom
spin-off
villain.
of Venom. Yeah, I mean, you could almost say Mysterio, but that's like a spin-off of Green Goblin almost.
But yeah, when you think of the
It's a Sinister Six dude. Fuck
and
Mysterio.
hey, because of Dan Slott and what he did with Superior Spider-Man and all that, argument could be made that Doc Ock is the best Spider-Man villain. But for me,
Well, you have to say that he's.
for me, Venom will always be one of my favorite characters.
Would you accept the
If-
argument that those are his 3 best?
Oh, I agree. I agree.
I mean, like all 3 of them have had such
That is another episode idea. We got to name the 3 top Batman villains, 3 top Superman villains.
Ooh, Brainiac.
Zod,
Brainiac.
Zod,
Darkseid. Darkseid. Doomsday. Well, we're done now. We already did it.
Yeah, fuck.
Fuck. Deep
Anyway,
dive.
I think
We're
that's
just coming up with ideas in case the
Well, that shows
strike keeps going
That
on.
shows you how important Venom is to the Spider-Man character and the Spider-Man mythos. And that's why it's kind of crazy that they did make 2 Venom movies without Spider-Man, because they're so tied to each other. But
yeah.
there's also a Chip Zdarsky what if book called Spider Shadow that I want to read, and it's what if Peter.
Did you ever read
Peter becomes Venom instead of Eddie?
Did you ever read the end of Venom?
Yeah.
Did I let you borrow that? How fucking excellent is that story? Like,
So
it's
bizarre.
so fucking meta, and like it literally encompasses the entire universe.
Oh, Venom can bond with anything.
When he starts going through hosts,
Yeah.
because the fucking AI, the Tony Stark AI, is like, well, fuck you, man. We can, dude. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's such a great. If you ever have a chance, there's a trade paperback. It's called The End, and it's got like 4 Venom and I think the Punisher, and I don't know, who cares. The Venom one's really the only one.
To wrap up the Amazing Spider-Man 3 discussion with Venom, I wanted to revisit the grimmer tone we went for in the first movie because we see what happens when Peter's in a bad place. He gets sort of angry, predatory, just a wee bit sadistic.
Mm-hmm.
And with the symbiote nudging him in all the wrong directions, we see what that's like tenfold. The end results in someone I wouldn't want to fuck with. And I like that. And I don't, and that's what I'm worried about this game coming out. I don't want, because I've seen on Reddit were like, what if Peter kills someone because the symbiote, is making him do it? And I don't think you need to go to that level. But like brutalizing someone, I think, like beating, like punching.
Well, that's what happened in the comics.
Just keep punching and punching and punching and have someone, stop.
Well, the final straw was that Clintar is his name. Yeah,
I know. Later in the game.
Sorry, but
it's Donny Cates retcon.
Right, but Clintar would take Peter Parker out when he was sleeping.
Yeah.
While he was asleep.
That's why he would be tired all the time.
Yes.
Because the symbiote would just use his body to
to go and take his shit out on,
just
whoever.
Everybody. Yeah. It wanted aggression.
Yes, and it was just like, holy fuck. Like, I remember reading this and just being like, what are they going to do with this thing? I mean, I obviously wasn't smart enough. I was really young, but I was just like, that's,
But here's the thing.
This whole thing that shows up. Anyway.
But here's the thing. One, he doesn't necessarily get rid of the suit. He kind of keeps it in this movie.
Uh-huh.
He doesn't really get rid of it. Two, remember when I said Norman Osborn was coming back? Well, guess what? He does. He does come back and starts the Sinister Six movie. And remember when I said his head was on ice? Well, apparently there's a subplot in The Amazing Spider-Man 3 that talks about resurrecting dead characters. And here's Dennis Leary to tell you what one of the versions of the script had.
I was disappointed because I'm totally selfish and greedy, and I was part of the franchise. I came back briefly in 2. Part of the discussion was that possibly in 3 there was this idea at one point that Spider-Man would be able to take this formula and regenerate the people in his life that had died. So there was this discussion about that Captain Stacy would come back even bigger in episode 3, and I was like, let's go.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed.
That's who I'm going to bring back is the dad, not my girlfriend.
Oh, buddy, don't speak too soon, because Gwen Stacy does come back. All right. So, plot and script details varied on the film that would have portrayed the Sinister Six, or at least one of its members, as sympathetic. This was also a plan. They were going to have Black Cat be introduced in this, too. There's also potentially Flint Marko, Sandman, coming back. So, following the recoloration, I can't talk. So this was supposed to be the third movie after Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Right.
But then Mark Webb said, no, Amazing Spider-Man 3 would come out first. Then the Sinister Six movie that he didn't want to make, he didn't want to be a part of, because he's out. He's even out of the picture out of this. Like, he's like, I'm doing Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So it would follow. So the 2-part Sinister Six would follow. He confirmed that Spider-Man would still be wearing the black symbiote, and it would separate from it near the end of Part 2, where Eddie Brock would bond to it and become Venom. In one draft, both Venom and Carnage served as antagonists, and later dispelled it upon realizing its negative influence, in which it would bond with Eddie Brock by the end of the film to set up the Venom spinoff, Venom Carnage. So they went with a couple ideas. Oh, it gets worse. Another plot point would have been that Emma Stone would return as a resurrected amnesiac Gwen Stacy. And she would bond to the Carnage symbiote.
Oh, my fucking God.
Which they did in the Ultimate Comics, I think, if I remember
I
correctly.
don't know. I never read any of that Ultimate bullshit.
After the Venom symbiote was replicated and was enacted by the still alive Norman Osborn, who, remember, his head was on ice, only to die again by the end of the film with the Carnage symbiote finding and bonding to Cletus Cassidy afterwards, leading into the Venom spinoff. So, there you go.
Boo.
They had such a good idea of, I think, Mark, this is, again, the classic story, and I'm sure we'll talk about the failures of those that reboot of Fantastic Four, but, like, how many times have we said, the movie had a good concept, but it was ruined by fucking cutting in the editing bay by studios and whatever, studios meddling.
Studio influence.
Every time these rich idiots try and chime in with remember Superman Lives, where we had the producer saying he has to fight a giant spider. But there's never been a giant spider fight in Superman comics. Like, what are we doing here? And he's like, well, 'cause it's a giant spider. It's scary. We got to put it in there. It's like
No, you don't gotta, you fucking idiot.
You know what I mean? It's like we can't just have Gwen Stacy's death be impactful and then find a way to introduce Mary Jane and set that up and have that be maybe have it.
No, we're gonna bring Gwen Stacy
maybe not
back.
even bring in Mary Jane until fucking Spider-Man 4 or whatever. But like, do that. No, we have to bring her back and make her Carnage. Like what? I know. Look. You and I have talked about this. We love multiverses. We love different takes. But I hate it when they do this in Spider-Man books. Like, I fucking hate the Clone Saga. I hate any there's like, don't even get me started on Spider-Man and clones. But it's just like,
I'm Ben Reilly.
There's so much other potential of stories to tell than to just do a cheap thing of resurrecting dead characters.
Listen,
like, what are we doing?
When the Clone Saga started, it was kind of refreshing to see a new take. No, I'm serious.
And have like Ben Reilly and all that.
No, because the way it started was that
Jackal.
No, we know all that. I'm saying, like, in the comics, the way it started was that Peter found his parents, and then and some other shit happened.
Going to be a part of this too,
right? Blah blah blah. And then what ended up happening was, I remember I read where Peter and Mary Jane, because they find out that Peter's the clone, and blah 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 is actually blah blah.
Ben convinces Peter that he's the clone.
That's when it starts to unravel. But for one cool part is that the clone goes off with Mary Jane, and they move off to the Midwest and just be a normal people. It's kind of cool.
But they can't just have Peter be in love. They just can't. So Amazing Spider-Man 4.
Shortly after that, it unraveled and started getting nuts with, like, Kane and like.
But it's just, again, like I said, just commit to these characters. You don't need to resurrect these dead characters, because then it's like, well, you have. Whatever, man. It's just like, what are you even doing?
So what's
you defeat Venom in the Amazing Spider-Man 3, and then we go into the Sinister Six movies, and then like Venom comes back, and then like
anyway.
So Amazing
Spider-Man. What's after?
There's still another plan. Amazing Spider-Man 4.
Jesus.
So 4 years have gone by, and life's finally seeming to go right again for Peter Parker, but because he defeated King. They call him King Goblin in this, apparently.
What?
Norman Osborn, King Goblin.
Why? He's never been.
Rhino, Carnage, and most of the villainous Sinister Six are behind bars in Ravencroft Institute. Peter is mending bridges with friends turned enemies Eddie Brock, Venom, and Harry Osborn, finally getting closure for his murdered girlfriend Gwen Stacy's death, ready to start a new life with his fiancée, Mary Jane.
Okay.
However, once again, a new menace, Scorpion, comes out of the woodwork to threaten New York City, joined by disgraced roboticist and ex-Oscorp
Alistair Smith.
Yep. And
the Spider Slayers.
And former Six and Vulture. The Spider Slayers and Vulture.
Wow.
Are seeking vengeance on Spider-Man due to his previous encounter.
Dude, Spider Slayers would be fucking cool for the movies.
There was rumors potentially that Peter could either like die or just want to live a normal life with Mary Jane and like hand it off to Miles, which would have been cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, honestly, I kind of at this point, I'm interested. What's going to happen? Tom Holland keeps talking about how he wants to take a break from acting and whatever. I don't know what they're going to do next time around live action, but I hope they do take some ideas here and do kind of use the Spider Slayers or do something a little weird. But one day I do want to see a Sinister Six team up, but I still want it to be a Spider-Man movie through and through.
Right.
I don't give a shit about the Sinister Six outside of Spider-Man. Yes, Doc Ock is a compelling character, and Vulture, and Green Goblin, and like all these villains can work, but only with Spider-Man. Get my point, Sony. Stop making these movies. Make Spider-Man movies.
Also, how shitty of a villain are you that you have to team up with 5 other villains to beat one hero, and you never fucking do? you always end up losing and getting caught and thrown in jail until you break out a couple issues later. Jesus.
Yeah.
Off panel, off topic with Jake and Tyler.